The fans also like is an integral part of Spotify. It basically says, hey, if you like this music and this artist, here's another bunch of artists that you might like. Now this works both ways, not only recommending artists off the back of you and your music, but also recommending you off the back of other artists. Now you might currently only have 1 or 2 artists in your fans also like, or you might have absolutely none. Or you might be looking at your fans also like and thinking, I don't know any of these other artists. Or even worse, you might be looking at the artists recommended and thinking, these are nothing like my music at all. So today we are going to look at everything that you need to know to not only get a fans also like, but to change or rebuild your fans also like. So firstly, let's look at how it works. Spotify, like other social media, is algorithmic based, which basically means Spotify has no opinion. It brings in the data and it looks at all of the information and it makes decisions based on facts, data, and maths. Or math if you're in America. So the more people listen to your music, the more data is collected. And the more data, the easier it is for Facebook to figure out you, your music, and your audience in order to place your music in the right places. For example, getting your music on playlists only happens when Spotify understands everything about your music and your audience. Getting your music into any of the Discover Weekly or Release Radar will only happen when Spotify understands your music and your audience. In order to get Spotify Radio, Spotify has to understand your audience and your radio. So anything explore-based where your music is getting pushed out, Spotify can only do this if it understands everything about you and the data of your audience listening. So this means our biggest job is to feed data to Spotify. Yes, we want people to listen to our music, but it has to be the right data. Just pushing people to Spotify to build up those numbers could be doing huge damage, and you'll know this if your fans also like isn't working. So let's go through some tips. Number one, when you start releasing music and you get your Spotify artist profile, you need to take this seriously, which means the banner is prime real estate and it should be utilized to show the type of artist you are and the type of music that you release. Your about page needs to actually show who you are, where you've come from, and where you're going. Your pictures, your social media links, your merch, your tour dates, even offers, everything that can be used on your Spotify artist profile should be used, because this tells people who you are, but also it allows people to stay on your profile longer, and that feeds the machine the data. Number two is being added to playlists. Now, obviously it would be amazing if you got your music added to Today's Hits, which is the biggest playlist on Spotify with over 30 million monthly listeners, but we have to start somewhere, and we start with you. We start with your playlists. You can make your own playlists on Spotify and add your song into a bunch of other artists that you feel like fits the bill. Now, when you do this, you can attach this to your Spotify artist profile, and you can even promote it outside of your Spotify, which brings people in to listen to that music. And what's it doing? It's feeding data. It's saying, oh, if you like this, you'll also like this other music. And you're also providing value to people who do come in, because they probably will like those other artists. Now, here is a huge tip. Spotify has a thing called shared fan base, which is kind of like a size for size on other artists. Because obviously Spotify is looking to connect up a fan who likes you and somebody else. But what really matters is the percentage of the audience who likes your music and that other artist. So let's say, for example, you like Coldplay, and there's nothing wrong with liking Coldplay. Okay. But Coldplay have 61 million listeners every single month. So just because someone else listens to you and listens to Coldplay, Spotify can tell that this means nothing. Whereas if 30% of your audience was a fan of Coldplay and you had 20 million or 30 million monthly listeners, then it would connect the dots and Coldplay would go into your fans also like. But realistically, this size for size means Spotify is looking for other artists who are of a similar vein, similar size to you, and they will connect those dots first and grow from there. Now, what this means is when you are making your playlist and adding your music into this playlist with other artists, if you're adding in Ariana Grande and Bieber and Coldplay and all these massive artists, then it's very difficult for Spotify to start joining the dots. Whereas if you're clever and you start finding other artists who are slightly more underground, maybe around the same size or maybe a little bit bigger than you, Spotify can start to join those dots, and all of a sudden those artists have more of a chance of appearing on your Fans Also Like. Now when it comes to Spotify playlists, it doesn't need to stop at you, because you can go and get your friends and your family to go and make playlists on their Spotify and add your song and other artists that they like. Now what this does is two things. Number one, this helps to feed the data to Spotify, but also you're playing the ego game. Because once someone makes that playlist with your music and other artists that they feel fit and that they like, what are they going to do? They're more likely to listen to that playlist. I get in the car, ooh, I just made that playlist. Maybe I'll have a listen to it. It's feeding the machine more data. Number 3, collabs matter. Now, we already talked about size versus size. So what about if you did a collab with another artist on Spotify and you recorded a song or even re-recorded one of your songs featuring that artist? Now, what you're doing is you're feeding the machine, you're feeding that data to Spotify, and all of a sudden Spotify says, hang on a minute, here's an artist on Spotify that's worked with this artist on Spotify. That artist is most likely going to feature in your Fans Also Like. Now, what's great is if you don't have a Fans Also Like, you could do this 3 or 4 times and have 3 swings at bat to try and get more data to Spotify to get those 3 or 4 artists or 3 or 4 bands onto your Fans Also Like. Don't forget, once you started building your Fans Also Like, it will constantly be changing, but we've got to get that data into Spotify first so it's got that jumping off point. Number 4 is what you do outside of Spotify, because obviously we want to push people into Spotify to listen to your music. But one thing you might not know is Spotify is so clever that it can go and analyze Google and other blogs and figure out your music from text and script on Google and other platforms. So we're talking socials, yours and other people's. We're talking press, we're talking blogs, we're talking podcasts, we're talking even gigs and tours if people are talking about you. It's more information to feed the machine that Spotify can find. So let's say, for example, you're a jazz artist and you get featured on a jazz blog. Spotify can see this and say, I can see how you're fitting into the scene, into the genre, and into other artists. So what if you do have a Fans Also Like, but the information is really messed up? Maybe you did a bad, maybe you did an oops, and you pushed a bunch of people via some bots or something else, and it's kind of messed up your Fans Also Like. How do you get it back? Well, you can. Firstly, that's the first thing to know, is you can get this back, but you need to be patient. All of the data that has gone in now needs to be reversed. So the amount of data that Spotify has needs to be overtaken by better data. And at which point Spotify will look at this and say, hang on a minute, I've got this wrong. This is more accurate. And it will start to move different artists into your Fans Also Like. One of the things I would do is stop any traffic from rogue playlists. So let's say, for example, maybe you did buy onto a playlist which is going to get you good numbers, but doesn't really fulfill the criteria of your music and your audience. Well, we need to approach that playlist and say, please take my music off your playlist. We need to stop any data that's coming in. So if you're on those playlists, you need to approach them and get off as quick as possible. And from there, we need to make sure that everything that is being fed into Spotify is good data, which also means if you're running any adverts, Facebook ads, Instagram ads into Spotify, then you need to think about the exact demographic who are going into Spotify. If you are running cold ads straight from Instagram, straight into Spotify, you need to be really, really careful that you have hyper targeted those people and not said, Facebook knows what it's doing, because there's a good chance you could be pushing bad data into Spotify. Now, let's say, for example, you bring people into your socials, you look after them, then you push them to Spotify. That's a warmer audience, and those people are more likely to be good data across into Spotify. Spotify will do everything it can to figure out about you, your music, and your audience, because it genuinely wants to keep people on Spotify and therefore provide people with the best music for that niche, which means it's your job to dictate to Spotify who you are, what you do, your genre, your music. All of those things fed into Spotify is your responsibility and not Spotify's. Every day I hear about disasters on Spotify with fans also like where artists have tried to either cheat the system or improve their numbers by buying onto playlists. And what I'm here to say is you can fix this. You don't need to start again, but you do need to be patient and you do need to have the right tactics. So hopefully that helps with your fans also like and building it into something you are proud of. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, if you are serious about your music and you want tactics like this and a bunch of others, then DK Music Business Academy, the link's in the description below, has over 50 hours worth of course content, including the 8-hour roadmap to 1 million streams without using any bots, by the way. Also, it's got a community of amazing musicians. I do live sessions every single week, and there's even Sonar, which is a database of playlist curators that you can get in touch with for free. So what have you got to lose? 7-day free trial. Come and join me in DK Music Business Academy and say hi when you're in there. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.